Chapter 45, The Lady Reborn. Michael had just about fallen into another trance, seeing her again. Time shifted before him and everything was now moving in loop and zoom-ins, rippling this woman's presence out into waves, one after another as they all came crashing back to Michael. It was really her, not just one of Michael's memories of her, but her in flesh and blood and soul. But it wasn't just her, there was also something else about her, hyped up and hyper-realized, all in hyper-defined detail, but done so much so that it made Michael question whether to believe what he was seeing or not. With all the Patrick Nacal's works of art laying around, here stood in front of Michael his Mona Lisa. Watching her step out of such heavenly scenery, dressed and poised the way she was mesmerizing to witness. This wasn't Michael's old Nikki. She had changed. Her aura had definitely changed, but whether for the better or worse, that Michael wasn't exactly sure of just yet. She had an air of nonchalance mixed with some danger and dastardliness about her that was also a bit unsettling. Like some battle-born Pocahontas, her hair was done up long, pinned up into a mohawk, looking very wild and untamed. Totally messy and definitely totally sexy. She was wearing white teddy lingerie with white straps, white stockings that was all covered with white tapestries of white hearts, unicorns, and flowers. And even with all the white around, hers seemed in complete contrast from the rest. She had enough diamond jewelry around her neck and dangling from her ears to reflect enough light to match the stars. And finally, she wore white stiletto pumps, all clicking and clacking hard to the sound of a war drum, looking like white stiletto swords, really, practically forged by Hephaestus' own hammer, created simply to conquer all of mankind. As she walked up to Michael, with one step perfectly placed in front of the next, also perfectly paced with her hips, like some runaway model, Michael's presence began to deteriorate. With every step she took, and before Michael could even muster up enough confidence to speak to her, Nikki began circling like a shark, while eyeing her prey. The smoke from the dry eyes continued building up as Michael began feeling very hot under the collar. "Nikki, what are you doing? You're making me dizzy. Stop." Nikki continued circling him. She still had a nonchalant air about her, but there was also something very cruel and uncaring underneath. Like as if underneath that human face, hers was really that of a giant lizard. "Please don't be cold to me again. I can't deal with this." But she was being more than cold, much more than Michael had ever seen from her before. "Please stop, just stop." But Nikki wasn't stopping. She knew what she was doing perfectly, and hearing Michael now pleading made her smile through her sharpened teeth. As she took one last spin around him, and when she came around front, she stopped. Her ass then went straight up to one side and froze in place and began puckering up to the sky. She stretched out her hand, and with the nail of her pinky, she gently scratched Michael's chest and said, "Hey." Michael was speechless. Who is this woman? Who is this woman? What has she done with the Nikki I remember? Thought Michael, for it wasn't just the way she was dressed. Michael remembered those wild moments of hers when she'd go all out with her costumes. It was really the way she was vexing and vibrating that was making all the difference. All so very bewitchingly, like casting spells, which Michael all but liked. If this was her, really, she had gone through a metamorphosis, and the thing was, Nikki was already a butterfly to begin with. What the hell on God's green earth has she turned into now? "Nikki, is that you?" "Lady Nikki to you, Michael," said Betamax, smiling like a devil. Michael looked back at Betamax so confused and felt like socking him in the mouth, but instead turned his attention back to Nikki. "Of course it's me, silly," responded Nikki. "Why are you acting?" Nikki began circling again, but this time she could no longer hold how much she was loving the effect she had, and began laughing, hysterically laughing like a cartoon witch, with way too much glee and glamour and personality, and all very sinister in nature. And even though Michael couldn't help but to snicker a little back, for truly how cartoonishly evil Nikki was being, how he felt about it all could only be summed up as sheer terror. No, please don't be mean to me," thought Michael as he began to feel so hung and heartbroken by this whole ordeal. As to how cruel and mean this new Nikki was being towards him, he almost felt like shedding tears. What? Me cry? Fuck that. I can't do that now in front of... Why is she being so mean to me? Come on, lover. I think we need to have a chat. Nikki stopped circling and started skipping in slow motion towards the drapes, and before disappearing into them, she turned around and made that come-hither motion with the index finger. Michael felt spellbound now. He felt as if he had no more control over himself, as he found himself moving towards this lady of the night. Fucking witch of the night, more like it. Got me following her now, all reluctantly. If she's leading me to Madboy, I gotta follow her though. I gotta. Trying to get through the gauntlet of wavy hysteria again, Michael found himself exhausted by everything, physically and mentally exhausted, and now faint. Hurry up, don't keep the lady waiting, said Jamil, and then Jamil shoved him forward, and Michael lost balance and fell over flat, landing face first, inches away from Lady Nikki's feet. Then looking up at her perky feet and well-toned legs with muscles that bulged as they adjusted her balance, Michael now began to feel sex-crazed. And added the scent of her nylon stockings, Michael felt like he was about to lose it. You can't stay down there forever, Mikey, said Lady Nikki teasingly. Michael looked up at her and her smiling, that crooked smile of hers still, and thought, fucking bitch. For she was openly enjoying seeing him crawl around down by her feet. This was beyond just being cold and uncaring towards him. She was now openly being villainous. And Michael, for the first time that night, felt totally at a loss. He felt small, he felt weak, and then he felt mad. Felt like dragging her down to the floor with him and putting her in her place, ripping apart her teddy with his teeth, and pulling it out and giving her a taste of some of her own villainous attributes. A thorough lesson as to which gender is supposed to fuck which. Boy, you look mad, Mike. Michael got up and saw how she could read his thoughts, smiling some more as if though she knew she was asking for it. But Michael resigned his lust and contempt building up towards her and focused back on the matter at hand. Fine. This is how it is then? Where is he? Demanded Michael. Who? Asked Nikki indifferently. You know who, said Michael, trying to reflect the same level of indifference, but failing at it miserably. Nikki then finally dropped the smile dead, and now had a more somber look on her face. She turned to look at Jamil and gave him the look like she didn't want him to follow, shooing him off with a gesture in her eyes. Nikki then pranced off towards the elevator, as Michael followed, and then unable to help staring at the seams running up the back of her stockings leading up to a diamond window. Perfect. Fucking perfect. I hate diamond windows now. They both entered the elevator. Michael then began eyeing Nikki straight as Nikki eyed nothing, ignoring Michael, still very indifferently. What the fuck is this bitch, and what has happened to the Nikki I knew? Michael felt like saying something, anything, but he knew there was nothing he could say at this moment without coming off sounding weak and pitiful. And what pissed him off worse was he had never been this way with Nikki ever. And Nikki had never been this way with him ever, neither. But Michael kept his mouth shut as his lust and contempt began building up again further. You trying to put up a facade? Is that it? After all the time we knew each other, you're treating me like some waste of space, low-life loser? Not worth your... The doors opened, and they were now on the 53rd floor. Looking out of the elevator, Michael now saw pretty much what was to be expected from a financial building. Housing office complexes where some corporation could function in. As Michael stepped out of the elevator after Nikki, he then saw him. Madboy was standing there with his head cocked to one side, tapping his foot and looking at them both impatiently. It was him. It was really him. It really is. And after all these years. Michael eyed him, and then realized he wasn't exactly sure what to do next. Seeing both Nikki and now Madboy was making him feel extremely awkward and out of place, a feeling a man gets when he isn't expecting yet to reach the end of his journey. And for Michael, the end of his journey was this. Feels different, as I thought it would, seeing these two again. But he was here, and Nikki and Reborn were there, and Michael knew he had to consolidate his convictions if he was going to settle matters the way he had planned. Michael closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then felt ready for the moment. Rompus, why is she being mean to me? but broke up again and now felt another panic attack coming back on, but now tenfold. No, control it. What the hell? This isn't me. Why is she being so... Stop thinking that way. Stop thinking about that. Another second passed and it was gone. Radboy at this moment stopped looking like a penny loafer wearing schmuck and turned to walk into an office to his left. Michael and Nikki followed. Getting to the door, Michael noticed on the door plate the inscription said, Miss Nicole N. Nikita Jackson. Are you fucking kidding me? All I knew of her name up until now was Nicole Jackson. Well, that's all she told me. Funny. Thought Michael, for up until now, he never knew Nikki had such a long, pretty, yet stupid porno star-sounding name. Michael smiled and felt humorous again. Good, get humorous. That always works. Think of something funny. A fucking white owl perched on his shoulder named... Wait, the owl's never white. And lost it again. Get the fuck out of here. I've never been this bad. Shit, what do I do? I'm acting like a punk-ass, bitch-ass loser right now in front of these two of all people. Wait, fuck it. Do it again. Who cares if they watch? Michael then closed his eyes as he reached for his rosary, took it out, then kissed the crucifix, even in front of both Nikki and Radboy, and felt a bit better. As Michael opened his eyes, he saw how Radboy had taken notice. Radboy whiplashed his head back, all taken back, in bold amusement, while frowning, and now it seemed like he was trying to control any fits of laughter from bursting out. Also, while eyeing Michael like he was some religious freak fanatic. Obviously, Radboy also remembered the obsessive-compulsive stuff Michael used to have, but still, Michael didn't care. He felt no embarrassment, for the trick had once again worked for him. Okay, Miss Nicole N. Okay, Miss Stupid Porno-sounding name, let's have some spas. So, this is your office, huh? Miss Nicole and Nikita. So, what's the other N stand for? Asked Michael freshly. First things coming out of his mouth now since entering the office and having Nikki and Radboy wait to hear him speak. And obviously, this wasn't anything the two of them now had the patience for. Nancy, stated Nicole, finally, after a moment of realizing Michael was going to be acting his old self, and him being in his 30s now wasn't going to mean jack shit. Nicole Nancy Nikita Jackson? I can see why you kept it abbreviated, commented Michael, keeping up his freshness as Nikki's eyes went slit. Michael then let out a sneer and felt like he was gaining some control. But then Nikki did what she could do to be all fresh and get to Michael and sprawled over her table like some panther in heat and began eyeing him and panting. And inside of her doing so, got both Madboy and Radboy's attention. Damn, fine. Growl to you too, bitch. Shit. She's making me want to now start hissing at her like a cat like I used to do with my... Who the fuck is this? Michael then took a deep breath and tried to take in his settings instead and break away from the tension building up again between him and her. Nikki's office was a beautiful office with high ceilings. They had a very minimalistic theme going on. There was a giant window in the back with a brilliant view of Manhattan skyline. They were in blue moonlight, and the moon itself now only seemed like a short distance away, almost in driving distance, still on a collision course with Earth.